You think your pain is a punishment? But what if I told you it's a secret calling from your soul? Jung said that suffering is a map, and those who ignore it repeat the same cycle forever. Today I'll reveal the spiritual principle that breaks this cycle, and why your pain is not the end, but the beginning of something unimaginable. Pain is not random. It arrives with intention, like a whisper from the unconscious, begging to be heard. Jung didn't see emotional pain as punishment, but as guidance, a coded message from the deeper self asking us to look inward. The problem is most people flee before they even listen. Modern life teaches us to avoid discomfort at all costs. We numb, escape, distract, believing that pain is something to eliminate. But what if pain is not the enemy? What if it's the doorway? Jung believed that pain reveals the cracks in our illusion, the places we've abandoned within ourselves. Behind every ache, there is a forgotten truth, a repressed memory, a shadow trying to breathe, and if you silence it, it only grows louder. That's why symptoms repeat, why your heart keeps circling the same grief, the same anxiety, the same empty silence. Pain is your psyche trying to restore balance. And when you ignore it, the soul fights back. Jung taught that symptoms are not mistakes, they are messages. Emotional pain is not chaos. It's your unconscious mind demanding to be integrated. There is no growth without friction, no light without descent. Jung once said, "Only the wounded physician heals." The very pain you carry might be the key to healing others, but first, you must stop asking how to get rid of it and start asking what it's trying to show you, because beneath your suffering lies meaning, a symbolic wound that points toward your unclaimed power. This is the principle that transforms agony into awakening. When you stop running from pain, you begin the journey of individuation, and that's not a passive journey. It's a descent into your fears, your regrets, your suppressed desires. Jung didn't promise peace, he promised depth, and depth always begins where comfort ends. Imagine a woman crying alone, not knowing why. Her tears are not weakness. They are the soul speaking in its native language, emotion. Every tear carries history, a memory her ego tried to bury, and now it rises through pain. This is the paradox of healing. Pain is both the poison and the cure. You cannot skip this part. You cannot bypass what wants to be seen. Emotional resilience is born in the fire of self-honesty, and that honesty begins with a simple question: what hurts and why? The unconscious mind doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in symbols, in dreams, in pain. Jung called this the path of active imagination, letting the pain speak in images, in sensations, in truths the ego fears. That's how you begin to decode your soul's message. Pain is not here to destroy you. It's here to dismantle who you are not, to tear away the false persona, to burn the masks you were taught to wear. And from those ashes, your real self can finally emerge. But most people avoid this fire. They chase pleasure, numbness, safety. They never learn that healing is not found in comfort, it's found in courage. The courage to face what you've ignored for too long. Pain is the teacher no one wants, but everyone needs. And if you dare to sit with it, it will reveal who you truly are. Not the version the world wanted, but the one your soul has been mourning for. So stop asking how to escape it. Ask how to honor it. Your pain holds symbolic meaning, and in that meaning lives the map to your transformation. But this is just the beginning, because to truly understand where pain leads, you need to know what your psyche is made of. To understand your pain, you must understand your architecture. Jung believed the human psyche was not chaos, but a sacred structure, a layered temples, where each part has a voice, a memory, a shadow. And when one part is ignored, the whole system suffers. Pain is often the signal that your inner temple is out of balance. At the surface, there is the ego, the I you think you are. It's your conscious identity, the storyteller of your life. But the ego is only a fragment, a mask. It tells a story that often hides more than it reveals, especially when fear, shame, or trauma shape the narrative. Beneath the ego lies the personal unconscious. This is the basement of your psyche. Here live your forgotten memories, your repressed emotions, your abandoned parts. What you pretend didn't happen lives here, and it leaks into your daily life through anxiety, projection, and emotional pain. Even deeper is the collective unconscious, a mysterious layer that connects you to all of humanity, Jung called. This the well of archetypes, universal patterns like the mother, the hero, the shadow, the wise old woman. These energies shape your instincts, dreams, and fears, even if you don't believe in them. Then comes the self, the deepest core. Not the ego, not the personality. The self is the totality, the union of all that you are and all you could be. It holds your purpose, your essence, your divine potential, and it's calling you to integrate everything you've rejected. When you feel emotional pain, it's often a sign that your ego is in conflict with something deeper. Maybe you're clinging to an identity that no longer fits. Maybe your shadow is screaming to be seen. Or maybe your soul is tired of playing small. This inner war between the ego and the unconscious is the root of most suffering. We try to fix the surface without ever descending, but no real healing happens without inner work. That means facing what's hidden, not just managing symptoms. Your emotional pain is a map, not a malfunction. The ego resists this. It fears dissolution. It wants to be right, to stay safe, to be in control. But Jung taught that true growth requires sacrifice. The ego must bow to the self or be consumed by the very chaos it tries to avoid. Pain is the price of resisting your own wholeness. The archetypes also play a secret role. The caregiver, the rebel, the lover, the orphan, these are not just roles. They are psychic blueprints. If you reject one, it becomes a shadow. If you embrace it, it becomes strength. Your unconscious is not a dark abyss. It's a sacred library. Each symbol, each dream, each wound holds meaning. Your job is not to silence them, but to translate them, to let the soul speak in its natural language. And that language is often pain, image, and emotion. This is why Jung insisted on techniques like dream analysis and active imagination. Not as woo-woo mysticism, but as psychological surgery, to retrieve what was lost, to listen where no one else has listened, to bring the unconscious into the light and reclaim the self. That is how you end the war within, because when you understand your inner structure, you stop fearing your pain and start following it. And once you begin to follow that pain, you enter the most dangerous and sacred part of the journey, the cycle of emotional pain, and how it repeats. Emotional pain is not random. It follows patterns, loops, recurring emotional storms that feel like déjà vu. Jung believed that what we fail to confront returns, not just once, but again and again, disguised in new faces, new situations. Until we finally listen. This is the cycle of emotional pain, a hidden dance between your conscious choices and unconscious wounds. You think you're reacting to the present, but you're haunted by the past, triggered by echoes, paralyzed by ghosts. And the more you avoid it, the more power it gains. Imagine a woman who always pleases others. She avoids confrontation, sacrifices her needs, stays silent. On the surface, she appears kind and selfless. But inside, there's resentment, loneliness, and quiet rage. And every relationship ends the same way. She feels invisible. This isn't bad luck. It's the unconscious repeating a lesson, a shadow that fears rejection, buried long ago. Maybe as a child, love was conditional. And now she fears abandonment. So she overcompensates, hoping to earn affection. But the cycle only deepens. her pain. This is how the psyche cries out. Through repeating patterns, failed relationships, emotional numbness, each episode is a symbolic recreation of a deeper wound until it becomes unbearable or awakening begins. That is the pain's secret agenda. Jung called this the return of the repressed. What you exile returns through behavior, emotion, projection. You attract what mirrors your unresolved pain, not as punishment, but as invitation. An invitation to finally integrate what was once rejected. But most people misunderstand this. They think they're broken, unlucky, cursed. So they numb, blame, or run faster. But the more you run, the more it chases you. Because the pain is not trying to harm you, it's trying to free you. This is why symptoms don't go away easily. Anxiety, depression, emotional triggers, they are not random malfunctions. They are messages from the unconscious trying to reach the ego, trying to restore inner dialogue where there's been silence. When ego refuses to listen, the unconscious becomes louder. It invades dreams, sabotages relationships, fuels addiction, all to get your attention. This is not cruelty, it's the psyche's version of compassion. Compassion that forces awakening. You don't escape this cycle with discipline or denial. You break it with awareness, self-awareness that dares to face the hidden cause, not just the symptoms. Pain, then, becomes your teacher, not your tormentor. It guides you to the original wound. And when you reach that wound, you don't rush to fix it. You witness it. You let it speak. You let it breathe. And slowly the loop begins to lose power. Because what is seen no longer needs to scream. This is not a quick fix. It's a descent into memory, into meaning, into soul. And it is only through this descent that transformation begins. But to break the cycle, you must learn the tools. And that's exactly what comes next. Pain repeats when it is ignored. But when we meet it with presence, everything changes. Jung didn't offer shortcuts. He offered tools, not to escape the pain, but to transform it. And each tool begins with a radical act, turning inward. The first path is shadow recognition, to look into the parts of yourself you've denied, your envy, your rage, your neediness. These are not flaws, they are fragments, and every fragment you reclaim makes you whole again. This is not intellectual work, it's emotional alchemy. Jung taught that the shadow holds what the ego cannot accept. So you must go where it hurts and ask, what am I hiding? Often the answer is what you feared. You were, but it's also where your true power sleeps. The second path is individuation, a lifelong journey of integrating opposites, masculine and feminine, light and shadow, the parts that perform and the parts that ache. It is not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming real. Individuation is the path of the soul claiming its story, no longer acting from wounds but from wisdom, no longer living someone else's script. You begin to sense the self guiding you, not the ego, and that guidance feels like clarity in the chaos. The third path is active imagination, Jung's powerful technique, to dialogue with the unconscious. You close your eyes, follow an image, let it unfold. You meet the shadow, the inner child, the forgotten voice. And in that dialogue, healing begins. This is not fantasy. It is inner reality. A psychic truth the rational mind cannot reach. Through image, symbol, emotion, the unconscious reveals what language cannot, and suddenly you feel seen by yourself. The fourth path is dream analysis. Dreams are direct letters from the unconscious. They bypass ego, bypass denial. In symbols, they show you the wound and the way forward. All you have to do is listen. Dreams often carry archetypal meaning, a house with no doors, a crying child, a hidden staircase. Each element is a mirror, a clue. Jung called dreams the royal road to the unconscious, and decoding them is decoding your own soul. These paths are not abstract. They are tools to break the emotional loop, to stop living reactively and start living symbolically, with meaning, with depth, with integration. But they require honesty and guidance. That's why Jungian therapy exists, not to fix you, but to walk with you, to hold the mirror steady while you remember who you are. Because healing is not about becoming someone new, it's about returning to someone ancient, your original self. And when you walk these paths, pain becomes a compass, each trigger a signal, each wound a doorway. You begin to live from within, not without. And everything in life starts to shift. But how do you apply this in daily life? How do you turn insight into action? That's where the real integration begins, in the small moments, the rituals, the conversations with your own soul. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Transformation doesn't happen in grand moments. It happens in the quiet choices, the pauses, the reflections, the inner whispers. Jungian work is not a weekend retreat. It's a daily return to self, a decision to live symbolically, not mechanically. Start with self-observation. Not judgment, not fixing, just watching. Notice when you react instead of respond. Notice what triggers you and what it reminds you of. That is your unconscious speaking through emotion. Keep a dream journal beside your bed. Write immediately. Upon waking, even fragments. Look for recurring symbols, the lost key, the locked door, the falling. Each dream is a private myth, a map drawn by your psyche while the ego sleeps. Practice dialogue with your shadow. When jealousy arises, speak to it. Ask, what do you need from me? What are you protecting? This inner conversation creates space between impulse and awareness, and in that space, power is born. Use creative expression as a tool for integration. Paint your anger, write your grief, dance your confusion. The unconscious doesn't speak through logic, it speaks through symbolic action. Art is a language your soul understands, so let it speak, without censor. Introduce small rituals of presence into your routine. Light a candle before journaling. Touch the earth with bare feet when you feel scattered. Ritual turns the ordinary into sacred space, and the sacred reminds you, you are not just surviving, you are awakening. Speak honestly with yourself. Ask, is this choice coming from my ego or my soul? This question realigns you with yourself. It pulls you out of autopilot and into conscious creation. Surround yourself with mirrors, not masks. People who challenge your patterns, not just comfort them. Growth isn't about always feeling good. It's about becoming real, even when it's uncomfortable. And the right people will walk with you through that fire. Read symbolically. Watch symbolically. Live symbolically. Everything in life has depth if you dare to look. The illness, the heartbreak, the silence, they're not random. They're invitations to wake up, to descend, to become whole. Mindfulness helps, but depth is more than awareness. It's about meaning. What does this emotion represent? What part of me is trying to return? Ask this daily. And listen, you don't have to understand everything. You just have to stay in relationship with yourself. Stay curious. Stay brave. The unconscious rewards those who return to it with reverence. This is the true inner work. And when the pain comes again, because it will, you won't fear it. You'll know it as an old teacher arriving with new lessons. And instead of resisting, you'll say, I'm listening. Show me. This is not a destination. It's a way of being, a way of walking through life with your soul intact. And the more you walk this path, the more life begins to feel like it's truly yours. But to anchor all of this within you, we must return to where we started. The pain that called you here, the truth it held, and what it asked you to finally become. Now you know your pain was never the enemy. It was a map, a message, a sacred invitation to stop performing and start becoming, to reclaim the parts of you that the world told you to hide. and to walk the only path that leads home, the one within. So ask yourself, what part of me have I been running from? What truth have I been too afraid to feel? What pain keeps repeating, not to hurt me, but to awaken me, because healing doesn't come when you finally feel better. It comes when you finally feel everything, when you no longer need to be perfect, only present, and when you choose to honor the soul's language, emotion, symbol, shadow, and self. Let this be your turning point, not just another insight, but a new way of being, because you don't need another mask. You need your own truth, and that truth begins where pain and meaning meet. If this spoke to something deep in you, if you felt seen, remembered, or cracked open, then you're already on the path. Now, walk it with intention. If this made sense to you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us on this journey of depth, truth, and inner transformation. Your soul has been waiting for this. Don't leave it unread.